So let's continue now and talk about what we know is a big deal when it comes to creating efficiencies. And I think all of you know now that that's a very deep-seated belief of ours, is that practice management and business refinement really do have to help create efficiencies. And so there's a lot of focus on that. This is a particularly big one, the creating efficiencies through the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle. So how many of you that are with us know what the Pareto principle is? Well, just sort of gave it away, didn't I? The 80-20 rule. Well, let me ask you this. How many of you then in the room would say somewhere around 80% of our revenue, my revenue, give or take, is generated by somewhere around 20% of our clients or households, give or take? Yeah, look around the room, look around. This is what I call, it's almost an absolute. Everywhere I go, every presentation, every client advisor we work with, it's pretty much a given. Let me ask you this then. Those of you that say, yeah, 80-20, how many of you then, if this is true, have a process in place to be able to focus 80% of your time, energy, budget, resources, experience on the 20% that make it rain? Look at the numbers there. Some of you do sort of figured it out, but a lot of advisors need help here. So let's talk about creating efficiencies. And a little trivia for you. I wonder how many of you know that where the Pareto principle came from. Yeah, an Italian economist by the name of Vilfredo Pareto, and I want to say 1896, if I have that right, found a little community in Italy where he lived that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the people in his town. He was also a gardener. Peas and tomatoes, a big deal to him, and he found that 80% of his best tomatoes came from 20% of the vines. And so the Pareto principle was born, and here we are all these years later talking about it in our practices. So let's talk about the intentional allocation of resources based on that very principle, and keep the idea of creating efficiencies in mind, and let's get a look at it. So an exercise that we'll perform with our advisors, and let me just throw some numbers out. Let's assume $1 million of revenue generated by 150 households, and the numbers are meaningless. You could be $2 million of revenue and 300 households. You could be $500,000 of revenue with 50 households. Doesn't matter. Successful practices all. But for the purposes of our example, just follow along. You can plug your numbers in. So when we start with an advisor, they say, yeah, $1 million of revenue, 150 households. That's about $6,600 of revenue per household per year. But these advisors are like all of you, all of us, that said, yeah, I know that the 80-20 rule is happening in our practice. So the 6,600 couldn't be farther from the truth. A closer look reveals this. At 80-20, $1 million and 150 actually means that $800,000 of revenue is being generated by 30 households or 30 clients. About $26,500 of revenue per household per year. Now, that leaves below the line, of course, $200,000 of revenue to be generated by 120 clients, or a little over $1,600 of revenue per household per year. Now, the goal here then is to do what? Figure out how to get rid of the 120 clients below the line. Isn't that right? We got to get rid of these. I know I see some people looking at me. Listen, my dad's completing his 53rd year as an advisor, and if you heard me say that out loud, he'd hit me with a stick. No, I get it. There's clients that are foundational to the practice that started with you, and the families are meaningful. I get it. No disrespect there. But let's take a look at creating efficiencies. Above the line, these are the advocates. This is where we're creating advocacy. And whether you're doing it intentionally or not, it's happening, isn't it? These people get the in-depth engagements, the high touch. You're seeing them often. It's high frequency. Those are meaningful interactions. We get to customize the solutions and services that we provide to them. These are people that do empower you fully. You are the personal CFO. All measure of financial, whether it's risk management, wealth management, anything else you provide, they're all in. Not only do you become, you already are indispensable to these clients, and these are the ones we want to duplicate. These people, don't we? And here's what we found out. These people want to duplicate themselves just simply because they're so in tune with you and value the relationship so much. Now, below the line, all right, we're not disrespecting people. We're not getting rid of these families, but here's where the service efficiencies must be created. These are the leverage communications. This is the one to many. These are the people, maybe they're getting a newsletter once a week from you, and maybe they're attending a webinar on some topic, maybe once a quarter. They might get to see you in person in a group setting, maybe a workshop that you're doing twice a year. Could be, maybe it's tax planning in the spring or Social Security issues in the fall. So we're not disrespecting them, we're providing value, but it's commensurate to the value that these clients provide to the firm. Now, those of you that, and listen, I don't think anybody would disagree where we want to make the duplication happen. If you are serious about scaling your practice and creating efficiencies and the expansion that happens in phase 2 that we talked about earlier, we have to create efficiencies, don't we? And listen, you know, the people above the line are the ones that probably, they appreciate the in-depth engagements, but they're not the, you know, sort of, they're not high hassle, or they're not ringing the phone off the hook every time there's a little movement in the market or what have you. So obvious, this is what we want to duplicate. Now, for those of you that have this situation, how many of you have created, well, let me ask you this. How many of you have classified clients in some way, whether it's AAA, AA, A, B, whatever it might be, silver, gold, platinum, something. Okay, so pretty good group there. Good. So those of you that have classified clients, how many of you have also created a service matrix of some kind, for lack of a better description, a service matrix that provides services to those different groups commensurate on the value they bring to the firm? All right, some of you, good. That's a huge efficiency creator here. We're going to talk about this. Those of you that have your hands up and say, okay, I have created a service matrix, how many of you put it down in front of all groups of clients that everybody can see what everybody's, yeah, this is something we come across all the time. Why don't you? Yeah, going to offend somebody. Who is it that you're going to offend? Yeah, never fails. Worried about offending the C clients. And I wonder why that is. It's always the C clients. Listen, if a C client were to find out that there were services available to a B or an A client, what's the worst thing that can happen? Your C client's going to pack up all of her C stuff and go down the road to be a C client someplace else? Seriously, and I'm being funny. I'm being disrespectful, but what's the, yeah, and you know what? So this is where I've said earlier, financial advisors, we have to get out of our heads that everything that happens emotionally or philosophically around financial work that we do doesn't exist anywhere else in society. It's not true. Let's talk about the service matrix thing for a second. And I'll put a couple of things up here where we're going to create time and efficiencies in the firm and achieve the scale and restore order and liberation so that we're not firefighting and we're being proactive, not reactive. Listen, I believe everywhere in society, clients know that in most types of businesses, they're getting services commensurate with the amount of business they do. The most obvious one, especially for me, how many of you fly? I fly all the time. Obviously, it's good to be here with all of you today. I fly all the time. I'm a Delta guy and have been for years. I remember when I was just the average guy, and still I'm an average guy, but I was the average flyer. And then I got to be silver. And guess what Delta did not do when I got to be silver? Oh, we better not tell them that there's gold and platinum out there. We don't want to freak them out and get them all offended. And he might get, upset with us and fly with American or something. Really? No, I was happy to know what it was. And I worked hard to provide more value to the organization. I wanted to fly more. Listen, I did want to get to be platinum. Why? I wanted to sit up front and have the drinks, when I'm flying. I wanted to take my wife to Hawaii for free. And when I got there, I didn't want the average people. Yeah, hey, listen, when you're boarding guy, you're going to the back, man. This is up here for, yeah. So listen, there are people that fly once every 3, 4, 5 years just to take the kids to Disney World or whatever it is they want to do. They don't really care about flying. You know what Delta says? Hey, happy to have you. Thanks for spending your vacation dollars with us. We're going to get your family safely where you're going to go. Welcome aboard. I don't think that those clients feel disrespected. Thanks for getting us there. Thanks for taking the kids there. They know. Listen, you put down, this is what I'll tell you that I know from client interaction. Clients don't get upset, get their feelings hurt, get all offended, pack up their stuff and leave because they understand where they fit. They get upset, get their feelings hurt, get all whatever, and pack up their stuff and leave if they get surprised. So we talk to advisors all the time about and this is part of the work we do, creating a service matrix, both internal and external. The internal one is, hey, what are we doing in here? We're making birthday outbound calls. We are setting up strategy and tactical meetings, or getting an in-person meeting with the advisor. Who's responsible for making those things happen? That's the internal version. The external version, you can see, lays out the services. The C clients are not packing up and going away. And let me tell you, on a couple of occasions, this is what I have heard. That in this particular instance, an A client or a double A client look at that and go, wow, I feel like I'm a pretty valuable client here and happy to be here, but I see that there's another level, another triple A. How do I get those additional services? And in 2 instances, advisors that we work with have responded by simply saying, look, you know, our very best clients just really understand how to introduce us to a friend or a family member 2 to 3 times a year. And in those 2 instances, the client, the lower level client said, is that all? Didn't get offended. I'm happy to know. Thank you. And got some introductions. Listen, maybe the C clients aren't going to do that kind of thing, but they don't care either. But the harm, is there any harm in putting it down in front of him? I don't believe there is. And for those of you that are scared of offending the C clients, let me say this to you before we move on. Beware. If your AAA clients, yeah, you're nodding your head, find out that they're getting the same level of service, or the C levels can get the same level of service that they as a AAA get. That's where the problems exist, okay? So does that make sense? It's part of the work we do. Let's create the efficiencies. Number one, we've got to classify the clients. We've got to understand where the business and the high important relationships are coming from. Then we'll build the service matrix, and we'll talk about how it. All right? Make sense? Okay, it's a key component in the expansion phase of your practice.